All right. Welcome, gentlemen. Oh, there he is. Good timing. Here we got Mr. Flowers right on the starting line. Yeah, Roger's done a really nice job, I think, with this alteration of the Mantua house cars. And matter of fact, when it's motivated me because I've got a bunch that I've been holding off on building for my railroad, but I'm going to take the techniques that he's done and apply it to about a half a dozen cars that I have yet to enter into the roster. So Roger, with that, thank you so much, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. How about we go ahead and get going right away? I don't have a real time on this one, so I want to make sure we can get in as much as we can and square things away here. There we go. All right. I asked the question at the beginning here, why confront the Mantua boxcar? Isn't it good enough? For me and my purposes of what I'm trying to do, no. Too much photographic evidence in most of the surviving photographs I can find on the East Coast, the ACWRR cars are radial roof. You'll have, like, I right now can only count about maybe 2 confirmed pictures I have found. I'm sure there are more, but the peak roof was not as common, especially since it didn't really take full hold until either later in that decade or definitely the 1870s. So I wanted to change the basic silhouette of the car and for a more prototypical USMR look. And of course, show you prototypical picture with the arched roof. And I didn't give a very good peak view of that, but we all know the Mantua car has that peak view. Well, they're much better there. This is in Alexandria here. See the roundhouse, see plenty of radial roofed cars, and not a single peaked in there among many. Here's another beautiful view, very clear, prototypical look. And of course, Mantua car, right along here. I'm showing some of the details on the Mantua car. Look at the corner edges here, almost nothing except for this handrail. See, the handrail is horizontal here as opposed to the vertical here. If all of them had vertical handlebars, none of them seemingly had braces, corner braces. So wanted to take that off. The other side of the Mantua car, ladders are good and can be modified. You know, I had a few inside windows, pardon me, a few had end slide windows, most did not, as what I could at least find. If anybody has alternative research, please let us know. Some had wall brake wheels, others had just pole brake wheels. It gives you some options. So I began by dismantling the car, took off the doors and wall and pole brake wheels and floor. Cut the roof off with a thin bladed model saw. It was kind of funny. I wanted to get some help with this, asked 1 or 2 people. They were not disposed to it quite yet. So I thought, hell, let's just get started and see what happens. I have a few cars I can waste. I picked the worst cars I had. I bought all of mine used and just went after it. I started obviously on the outsides on one corner, and then using a X-Acto 236, very thin knife with a deep siding so that it would go in far enough to reach the peak section of the Mantua car, and started just gently cutting around the up to the center peak, and then stopped there, went to the other side and did the other side. Repeat until the roof separates. Keep as close to the roof line as possible, but don't sweat it if you make any mistakes. I mean, don't cut a straight line across. Try to get to that peak as close to the roof as you can. And even if you eat up some material, it lowers the car nonetheless, which is quite frankly preferable since the Mantua product is already too tall. So sander file down the peaked ends so they're curved or radial. If you would like, remove the ladders from one side, a fit, cut or sand off the sliding window detail if you dare. That's a lot of work. Will take you a lot of time. Reestablishing the planking on that side will be fun as well. So do what you want, whatever, knock yourself out. Same thing with the wall, wheel chain, and or pole stand. Not all of them had them. Most do have that same stand on them, or maybe even the other side. Just depends. Make your choices. As you can tell, perfect cuts and filing was not achieved. I didn't even bother worrying about it, to be honest with you. The arch I was able to achieve, I did worry some. So, you know what I did? I'm going to cut the share for a minute. Hopefully you can see me. There it is. Good. Grab the BTS product. Looked at the Carlin curved supports. Let me share again. And found out that my curve was a good fit for the Carlin curves on the BTS product, and relaxed and moved on. Even if the curve was not perfect, even if there was like right here, too much curve on one side, I made some adjustments, but to be frank with you, I didn't overdo it. In the end, the overall effect did not warrant it. If you're going to make only 5 of these, go for it. Have fun, make them perfect. So, cut the roofs off. Now the roofs are off, it's time to remove the unnecessary details. Use your favorite hobby knife, file tool, sandpaper to remove the metal corner braces and hand grabs. Any grooving tool to re-groove the car wall planking to reestablish that detail. I used a roofing nail. Also tried to screw. It worked too. Just pick your product and use it. Reestablished the detail. It's hard to see because I was scraping in there. Oops, sorry, let me go back to that. And the scraping, because of the lighting, makes it look like it's still flush, but it's grooved again. And so I moved on. The main body of the car is ready. It's time to fabricate the doors. In my mind, this feature is a critical step to providing a more prototypical look to the model. Note the door planking is thinner than the siding planking. Had to catch that detail. Look at it closely. Notice how wide that planking is over here and how thin it is on the door. How to solve that problem? I used car siding end scale 3 1/4 inch spacing with the door planking end scale. Same inch end scale with the HO scale. It gives that effect. And for me, being theatrical, if it got the right effect and it gives that scale look, let's go for it. Whether it's wrong or not, it still looks right when you see the final model. Now, then I moved on to the door framing. Had lots of problems with that. Thought about removing the plastic of the Z. Let me get to a door picture of the Mantua door. Should have thought about that. You have this cross beam here that goes diagonally across the door. Thought about removing this and establishing the grooves here. And I'm like going, man, I'm not sure if that's going to look very good or if it's even going to give the right effect, since this has this very, nice outline. The beam went across the middle of the door, where the middle beam is slightly above. Let's just fabricate the doors and go at it from that. So what do you do? How do you get that fabrication correct? Well, went back to the BTS product and saw what they did. Oh, framing is made of cardstock. Let's grab some cardstock and grab that. Drew a basic framing picture, did it as much to scale and look as the original. As you can tell, the frame fits inside what will become the end scale planking portion here, and the exact same size as the Mantua door. So once again, using the original Mantua door, trace around it, create a template that will fit into the existing door rails. Don't redo the door rails if you can avoid it, in my mind. Remember, the outside framing is not the same size as the door and must fit into the side rails to look right and to continue to open and close. Print the door frame on standard cardstock. Showed you the cardstock I used. Then, using the printed frames on cardstock, I carefully cut out the frames with your favorite cutting tool. Used a small pair of scissors to cut out the framing for me. Oh, by the way, I just cut right through the framing, cardstock. Didn't even think about it twice, so I can get a good cut up and down. Just glue it down correctly. It's going to be together. No need to worry about it. The blank door portion of the template, I used, I think it was 0.20 thickness on the blank styrene, and the end scale 3 1/4 planking is also 0.20 thickness. When you glue those two together, it's thinner than the Mantua door sliding sections itself. Unfortunately, when you paint them, you thicken the door a little bit, and it causes a little bit of problems with the sliding. But the single thickness of the planking was really thin. The door kind of bounced in the sliding mechanisms. Let me stop for a minute. Are there any questions so far? I kind of ran at the mouth here, but are there any questions so far? Is there any misunderstanding somebody would like cleared up?
Well, earlier you mentioned that the peaked roof is more the 1870s instead of the 1860s.
In volume of cars with peaked roofs, yes.
Now, when did the radial roofs go out of style?
Well, it probably began its decline during the war.
Yeah, because I'm modeling the Reconstruction era, so it's one of those things of it looks like I can get away with not modifying Mantua cars as much because
Well-
it'll be more of an older style.
Without a doubt, I'm sure there would have to be a sprinkling of radial roofs
Yes.
going into the 1870s until they died. I mean, if somebody could use the car, they're going to use it.
Yeah, until it falls apart.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, we've all seen rolling stock go by as we drive by, trains going by, from the 70s, 80s, 90s. I have. Hell, the MKT down here in Houston uses stuff back to the 70s all too often. Of course, nicely decorated with graffiti.
And then on those, when you put those door frames on, would you make them a little bit smaller so that if the paint globs from the side of the frame, that is still not going to interfere with the rails?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, do so. But be careful how much smaller you make them. Fitting securely in those rails is a big help. And it sets the doors where you want to keep them, and then you can move them still later on. I mean, that was a shock when to me, because I'd never considered it, or when DC told me the BTS car, you can't move the doors, they're not movable. So I was like, oh, I'm sure you can modify it, but we never got into that. Nobody's gotten into that yet. Maybe somebody has, I just don't know.
A quick note for Ed. Ed, Model Railroader, February 1991, had an interesting article on a reconstruction railroad that this guy did. Might want to check that out.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before I get rolling again? Okay, good. I wanted to give you views of what the three pieces that compose the door looked like. Got them cut and ready. So, time to glue the planking piece to the plain piece. So I begin to assemble the doors, first using my favorite glue, in this case, CA. I glued the planking door to the matching plain door piece to give enough thickness so the door will slide decently when placed back into the car. Cutting the side of the doors must be done carefully because it will be seen. The top and bottom go into the rails and will not be seen. But decent cutting helps the doors move smoothly. So cut the sides carefully. All right, make sure those are nice and straight. As you look at the tops and bottoms of these, small variations, wouldn't sweat it. They're not going to be seen. They're going to be tucked up into those rails. But if you're one of those guys who have got to have the doors move smoothly, cut, shorten, sand down, smooth out, do whatever you have to do to make it happen for yourself. I wanted to give you, there's the fully assembled door to the left. Once the doors are dry, you will need to glue the framing onto the door. I used regular modeling glue for the framing, the cardstock framing to give me time to properly place the frame onto the door. To be sure the framing matches with the original door. Now, note how this line, I tried to match it, the original Mantua thing. Yeah, and take note to your question, I believe it was Walter. Notice how the upper sliding areas are shorter. And yeah, I did shorten some of these. Yeah, do it. By all means, make them fit right. And I might even go back in the end and do it myself. What am I? Not hinder move. Yeah, not hinder movement when the back on the car. Right. Okay, so we got that now. All right. Can you guys see this that I'm pointing at over here? Your own screens and stuff. See if I can get that out of the way. All right. Now with the doors done, we must fabricate the roof. This can be done one or two ways. With plain or grooved styrene. I chose the plain because I was under the false impression that all tin roofs were manufactured the same way, with 13 sheets of tin laterally laid on the top of the roof from side to side. Yeah, I was a moron, I know. Wrong. They were laid laterally and longitudinally at the freight car maker's whim, depending on, I'm sure, on what the freight car maker could get tin width. That's what they slapped up there on the roofs. Note, this is longitudinally laid on the car. You can see the lines. The lines are a little harder to see over here, but this is latitudinally laid, longitudinally laid. Latitudinally, even though I can't seem to speak this morning, my coffee must be bringing slurred speech. But there you go. Photographic evidence. Prototypical photographs. All right.
Comment, Roger.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can see a couple of box cars without the roof walks.
Right.
And the one at the top, it almost looks like that tin roof has a curve to it, but that could be just an illusion.
Negative. That's a curve.
It
Those
is.
lines go all the way down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, that's the only I've only seen that variation once.
Wow. Cool.
And of course, you're looking at the picture. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, but I guess it would be a fun variation to throw onto the track.
Absolutely.
It looks like the stock car in your upper left-hand image.
Yes,
Looks like the roof on that almost looks like board and batten.
that's correct. It's that 36-footer in that Alexandria yard picture off the top of the roundhouse
Yeah,
that we've seen 1,000 times, focusing close. I think I show it later on.
You know, I'm sorry.
Go, Tom, go.
Not to get too sidetracked, but again, in that upper photo, if you look at the stack on that locomotive,
Yep.
the band at the top looks like it's a different color. And I'm wondering, because there has been notation in some of the things I've read where the tops of those might have been painted different. I think there was one that suggested there was a red stripe. That band was painted red to indicate a hospital train or something. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, a possibility. The other thing I want to point out is look at the walkways on top of these three cars here. There isn't a straight one on the roof. Look at the curvature
Yeah.
going up and down. So if you're worried about your walkway, and I didn't get to the walkways, but if you're worried about your walkways going straight across, yeah, forget about it. Don't. Once these roofs started to sag or
Yep.
bow or do whatever they did.
The other thing too is, I'm sorry, when you look at that one photo with the three box cars in a row, the one closest in the foreground seems to have a gap between the walkway and the roof, and the one behind it looks like it's like right on top of the roof.
Which makes me wonder, yes, that's a definite gap. That's what BTS does on these two. And that one looks really flat. I'm wondering if it's the angle or if it's really flat.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt somebody goes, look, we've lost the support lumber. Okay, we need the car out. Can you just lay it on there? You
Right.
lose half of them anyway.
Right.
I mean, think about human practicality. All right, let's move
Also, it's
on.
weird, the brake wheel on that top picture being down there, like how would a brakeman run along and you'd have to climb on top of the car and down each time, have a ladder on both sides? If
Right,
you're gonna do
Yeah.
that?
correct.
And look
Yeah,
how
that's what they
high
did.
this brake wheel is as opposed to this
Yeah.
one right here.
Are you asking Walter?
No, I'm saying they
No,
have
you're
different levels of rods for the
Oh,
brake
right,
wheels.
right.
So if you've cut off one brake wheel and you're sweating it, stop sweating.
Right. Good.
Okay.
So roof walks at this time were this is when they start being used is a lot.
Well, that you better go to John White's freight car, figure out when they started using roof walks.
That was 18
Even if he knows.
I think it was, you've seen, there's some photos where it shows them in the 1850s even. I'm not sure when or how, or if it ever became a standard practice.
Yeah, it looks like they're even though they got the roof walks, they don't have the pieces of wood that goes to the ladder,
No,
which I'm not quite sure what they're called.
cut that, the little platform up there. There were also wood walks that were essentially two boards laid down the, just off the center of the cars. And then cross pieces put on them so that they're running side to side rather than end to end.
Hmm.
I've seen one picture of that.
Yeah, here's the other one I'm torturing myself with. Look at this crosswalk here. The color of it looks almost exactly the same as the roof. And this one, not so much. I'm wondering if they tinned the crosswalk. Or
No, they
would
wouldn't
be
have
too
done that. It would have
slippery.
made it too slippery.
Exactly.
All right, but the color is exactly the same.
Right. I think that's just the lighting. If you look at the one in the middle,
Mhm.
I guess it's plausible to say that that was a wood roof. It's board and batten, but that's a guess. But I hear
Well,
what you're saying about the color.
Right. And the other thing is, should the color of the side of your car match the walkway, or should the walkway match the side of the car? Well, guess what? Not on that photo. No, and look, the shade of this car versus this car's shade.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, I argue that every last one of these shades are probably different on all three of these cars. And this is in one picture with the same lighting angle.
Right.
So get the wrong shade. Nope, can't do it. Sorry.
In that bottom left picture, is that markings for like hobo markings or repair markings, or can you tell what that chalk is?
What, these numbers here?
No.
On the left-hand side, on the end of the car.
This one?
No, other picture.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There,
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
there, right there.
I'm
What are
guessing
those?
chalk.
That
Yeah.
could have been a repair notation. It also could have been what it was carrying, or maybe the place where we're supposed to go.
Oh God, yeah. What happened to my cursor? Yeah, 1,000 things could have happened. And I'm pretty pissed off with the guy who climbed up and down the ladder and then jumped over on the ledge
Brake
thing here. He
platform.
needs to clean his darn boots before he gets there. What a slob.
Maybe it's
another-
just worn out paint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I love it.
Yeah.
Another thing is that since these are not color photos, there's the possibility of maybe the tin roof having the same sheen and color as weathered wood that's on the walkway.
Exactly. You know, Indian ink, the top walkway and then glue that thing down.
Right. The other thing
know?
that's interesting in that same photo, you can see there's a ladder in the car that's in the foreground and a completely full width beam on the end. And you look at the one to the right, it's a shorter beam, and all they have, I think, are wood rungs, if you will, that are just tacked directly onto the car. There's no ladder, formal ladder.
Or could they be grab rails?
Could be.
Yeah, you know. So the
That's-
options are limited, are
Exactly.
limitless. Pardon me. Okay. Any more questions since we're right here? That's just struck up a huge conversation. Okay. Yeah, that's the other one more argument. Do I do styrene or do I do some sort of wood? I'll grapple with my conscience later on. All right. So I chose to use plain styrene for the roof and make the grooves myself. Save yourself the trouble and purchase groove styrene of different widths if available. It'll just save this step and a couple of $100. Measuring the Mantua car body, I made a roof template that slightly hangs over the sides and ends of the car, just like the car itself. I use mainly a roof nail to groove the grooves, but pick your favorite scratching tool and go for it. Then scraped and gently sanded the groove debris away.
Mm-hmm.
All right. After preparing the roofs and filing the car sides and ends as even as I possibly could, which by the way never happened, even that is, I wanted to glue them on without any Carlin curved radial roof cross beams to support the roof. Why? Because I'm lazy. Unfortunately, I learned that the styrene did not keep its form across the length of the car and sagged or sunk around the door. So a fabricated radial curved Carlin supports after looking at BTS again and making yet another template. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get over precise with it. In fact, I'll tell you what I did. I took one of the Mantua cars, looked at the curve, drew a line, cut it out. I gave a little thickness, I gave a little length to the Carlin curve because I'm not personally worried about interiors. And I wanted the support to be stiff enough since it was so thin. And that's what I did. I made it wide enough so it fits snugly into the car, into the sides of the outer framing of the car. So I cut out a bunch of radial curved Carlin supports and glued them inside the car on both sides of the door. I, of course, didn't want them close enough to the door so they could easily be seen. What was funny is I used the outside of the sliding rail, that little steel piece there, and said, perfect, right there. They can't see in that deep on either side. Glued them right in there to give that central support for the sagging roof. Of course, I tried to make the roofing supports even. None of them are perfect, but I'm almost positive not a single one was the same size. Cut and sanded them so they would fit snugly between the two sides of the car before gluing. And I think it worked well in my sorry opinion. And that's what they looked like all together. Yeah, I made sure the top part fit flushed with the side
Mm-hmm.
of the car. And naturally, when you cut the roof off, you already have an angled cut on the side of the car. So just make sure your Carlin support fits smoothly in with the angle on the side of the car. So when you glue them down, they glue down more or less relatively smoothly. So once the carlin is dried, it's ready to glue on the roofs. Place the modeling glue, once again testers, all the way around the car on each carlin support. Try to limit your gluing because it does spread out onto the sliding rails and provides a, it closes the gap between the roof and the rail, and you really want the gap. You'll have to sand it out or paint it black like I did later on. Anyway, you position the roof so there was a little hanging over either side and both ends, and I taped it down to dry. So it looks correct. I suggest modeling glue so you have time to readjust the roof positioning. I used 1.5 to 2 inch masking tape to secure it evenly across the sides of the car. This also bends the styrene to the curvature of the desired look, because the styrene will not bend. I used my coffee can. My coffee can taped down the roof cutting of the styrene cutting of the roof to the can. It would not curve. I took a hot gun to it and completely ruined the roof because a hot gun will heat the styrene entirely too quickly for me to form it. So ruined the roof. Then I said, screw it. I'm going to glue it down, tape it down, and make sure the glue is also on the carlin supports and the size of the car, and all will be well. So this bends the styrene once again to the curvature of the desired radial look. File or sand any excess roofing or fit. Now, here is the side view and the under view of the open bottom, so you can see how it looks after it is glued. Notice the excessive glue near the ladder to the left. Don't worry about it. You have a radial roof. Who cares? But I mean, once I saw this, I was pleased as peach myself. All right, let's see if I can get this thing to move. Good. So another prototypical picture. I did my best to avoid fooling with the underneath the car, but failed completely. I simply could not ignore these visible beams down here by the door. There are even visible beams over here, but somehow I managed to ignore those. So I fabricated some with appropriate purchased balsa wood. Probably next time I'll use basswood so that it cuts better. So I fabricated some appropriately sized purchased balsa wood. No, I don't remember what that was. I think it's 1/8 inch square balsa wood. I cut the beams. Now listen to this carefully. I cut the beams to the exact width of the outside of the sides of the car, because they are flush with the outsides of the car, not the outsides of the undercarriage section of the Mantua car, but the outsides of the framing of the car that holds the doors, not the sliders, but the door planking framing. Okay, I hope I was clear on that one. I glued them underneath the support wiring. Yeah, too much glue as usual. And this is what they end up looking like on the bottom undercarriage framing. Naturally, they turned out just fine with minimal effort. Any questions, gentlemen? Let me stop for a moment. Everybody's good. So far, good. Then I made a fatal error. I decided to modify one of the Mantua stock cars. So I was begging for more trouble. Too busy researching, seeing other cars. This is in Chattanooga. Looks like, you know, different styles of doors, different window settings, some with frames, some with thinner frames, some with no frames, some with punched out siding. Looks like this was punched out or cut out. These looked punched out. A different door, much like the Mantua door that comes with the stock car. I'm not sure if they have openings like they do have on the Mantua car. In fact, this might have a double door. See this door right here? Sliders up here, sliders up here. Who knows? Different openings. I mean, they were modified left and right in the field. These guys slapped on a ladder over here. Once again, the possibilities, gentlemen, are limitless. All right. So I grabbed one of the Mantua stock cars since it already had windows and cut and sanded them out. Since the Mantua plastic is thick, it was not easy. With the appropriate, even with the appropriate Dremel bit, I used something I think for steel originally. Nonetheless, the results were good enough, and I moved forward by cutting appropriately sized 3 1/4 inch HO scale siding styrene to fill in the cutout window areas. If I had chosen to, I could have had more irregular holes in the sides to show what troops actually did to freight stock during the war, and will probably do that in the future. Right. Oops, sorry. There we go. Then I cut some styrene HO, you know, I guess I've already said this, but, you know, 3 1/4 inch pipe filled in the former vent windows. Came out fine. This was as adventurous an effort I made. A probable repair scenario. Looked fine to me. Could have been done better. Could have been done worse. Yes, the 3 1/4 planking styrene, which is right here, is thinner than the Mantua wall, and the styrene is thinner itself. But unfortunately, its planking is slightly wider than the Mantua car planking. You find a fix for that? Please let us all know. All right.
Roger,
Yeah, go ahead.
Evergreen makes V-groove siding in all sorts of widths, and there are widths out there of it that will match. What the number is right at the moment, I do not know.
Good. I'd love to find that number one of these days. I'll look into it. Thank you, DC,
Okay.
because is it important? Yeah, maybe. You know, but repairs are done by practical people. Get what you get. And I guarantee car planking across manufacturers, because the USMRR did not have one manufacturer making cars.
Right.
So with the basic conversion made and the cars reconstructed physically, I then primed them with Viejo Black primer spray after a rubbing alcohol bath with a toothbrush to remove whatever debris remained. You definitely want to do this because the Mantua, with all the you know, with all the scraping, filing, and all the other crap I did, it's going to have plenty of micro debris on it. Get it off. so the paint will stick. And prime them because of the prior paint and Mantua original stuff, which is anywhere from, pre-Civil War to modern day made. All right. Now, got together with Eric Cox from Panamint, and it's Panamint, not Panamint. I'll correct that later. Working with our very own American Civil War RR member, Eric Cox from Panamint Shapeways. He sent me his excellent USMMR wood beam trucks. Now, to fill in a little background story here, to the left in the clear plastic is the Shapeways product, okay? To the right is directly from Eric. He kindly made me some resin trucks, and his process denigrated the detail on the bottom of the truck somewhat, as opposed to the Shapeways truck. These pictures do not do that lack of detail very good justice, but it's there. Get your magnifying glass, you'll find it. And that's what I'm telling you. His trucks with the resin are a near equal match to the Panamint trucks. But on the side frames that you're going to look at for the rest of your life, they're a perfect match, gentlemen. And get with Eric directly. You can find him on Shapeways. Ask to talk to the designer, straightforward. Tell him what you're doing. Tell him the size of your wheel sets. He'll match the frames with them as he did with me, I'm sure of it. His service is impeccable. And you can trust him with your life. Anyway, let me move on here. So I chose this. He has some regular wood beam trucks. And I got some of those. He has a lot of different trucks. So look at them. I chose this time only to use the USMRR trucks. DC had kindly informed us undergrads a while back that the brakes were usually not installed onto one of the trucks on the car. So I cut off a set of brakes from one truck to provide that prototypical element to the car. Could there have been cars with two sets of brakes? I'm sure somebody did that somewhere along the line. Probably replaced a truck, only had trucks with brakes. Who cares? Makes the car roll. All right, now let's install the trucks using the existing screws and plastic truck clips. No go. Personally, I intend to sell off my Mantua trucks on eBay and recoup some of the cost for purchasing the amount of trucks that I purchased from Panamint. See, I spelt it right. Now, wanting to permanently remove the metal weight plate from the older version of the car with metal screws, you find out that the screws were manufactured to attach to that metal plate and turn smoothly through the plastic floor. There are no grooves in the plastic floor for the screw. The screw slips up there nicely. The newer car has an even larger hole for the plastic clip that attaches the truck to the floor. What do you do? Yeah, that was a fun one. I didn't find that out until I had the cars all painted. I thought I was just going to install the trucks and move on with life. And that's the way it goes. Of course, send up a flare for help. Since DC and Tom had installed Panamint trucks before, I texted them for help. DC suggested using properly sized cut styrene tubing to fill in the old screw flooring or a floor opening in the plastic clip floor opening. That sounded doable and easy. So I still ran into the specific problems with each style of floor opening. After looking at several sizes of tubing, I finally settled on the 1/8 inch tubing because its shaft was a fit for the original Mantua metal screw, and or I could purchase screws to fit the tubing. Well, I decided to purchase screws. So I purchased the 2 by 56 inch by 3 1/3 inch. Actually, that's wrong. The screws are shorter, obviously, with a 1/4 inch screw, so they won't poke into the flooring. I'm going to put some planked flooring on later on. So a 1/4 inch instead of the 3/8 inch. I'll correct that later. To fit the tubing and to be long enough to securely stay in the new fabricated shaft. Its outside diameter led to other solutions. So, as you can easily tell, the existing attached holes are different sizes. Attachment holes are different sizes. The styrene tubing outer diameter forced me to drill the older metal screw shaft a little bit wider and add a, what am I doing there? No, I made a mistake there. I'll fix that later. But the older shaft right here is smaller. I had to widen that, put the 1/8 inch shaft in there to fit flush with the bottom undercarriage and the top, and cut it off, or mark a line and cut it off. So it fit in there nice and flush once glued. It's with the wider hole you see, which the plastic truck clip mechanism fits into, that I had to use a plastic washer that I had from my uncle's old railroad things that I inherited it, which fit the outer diameter of the tubing. Put it in there, make sure it fit flush, cut it off.
That was fortunate. You just
Oh,
have to-
you better believe it. Now I'm praying I can find out what that washer-like plastic thing is.
You know,
And
yeah, there's a lot, there's a few sources of washers online. As long as I think you know the diameter of it, I think you could find them.
but I think what they are plastic shaft washers for motor shafts that go on there to create those bulbs so the shafts can spin freely while placed in a level bulb thing like the river Rossi and the Mantua manufactured
also-
shafts have.
You can also get larger diameter evergreen styrene tubing and make your own washers.
Good point.
Do that. That's easier. Do that. Good one, DC, and thank you, because that was a thinking I did not even go with again. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure there is an inner diameter shaft that goes at 1/8 inch as the same inner diameter as this. And if you need to drill out wider, do it. Bore out the wider hole, do it. So drilling a larger hole in the older model was simple enough, but finding the plastic washer was a problem. We've just discussed that. But and by the way, the fit wasn't perfect. So this inner diameter wasn't perfect. So all I did was make sure that the shaft hole that I was going to screw into with the screw was centered to the fore or aft of the car, so that the truck would still be centered on the car. Yeah.
Right.
So I glued the washer object in, placed the tube inside its hole, cut a piece off, used the same technique for the older model of the newly widened hole. This is what they both look like after the shafts are glued in. Same shaft, outer and inner width, two different styles, two different problems solved. All right. Now, the time to attach the trucks now again. Yeah, no. Placed two trucks down on my workbench so the trucks were level and placed an unmodified undercarriage on the trucks. Look at the result. Let's face it, the Mantua house car is too tall anyway. With the USMRR trucks, it's even taller. This is a picture of CF Jr.'s drawings of prototypical cars used by the USMRR. And you can see the truck is close in to the bottom of the car. And look how far down these trucks are. The Panamint trucks, the screw hole is level with the sidebars of the trucks. So therefore, right away, you've got a problem. Of course, I learned that, as you can tell, after everything's nice and painted and primed. So after consulting DC again, he suggested creating a jig so that when you sand down the shaft area, do not take off too much material from the undercarriage, because you want the undercarriage on the two different style of models to be the same level from wherever the undercarriage is sanded down to the truck, so the cars sit even as they are coupled together on your track. Yeah, that was fun too. So when you sand down the shaft area, you do not take off too much material of the undercarriage. You may want a brass. You know what I did? I grabbed cardstock, used a standard single hole hand punch, and created my jig. By some, the hole punch was the perfect size by some miracle for both undercarriage designs. So I cut out two inserts for one of the newer undercarriage designs. There's the newer undercarriage design on one of the trucks. That's only on one side. And looked at the picture to the right. The first undercarriage, this first undercarriage is the older model. I had to sand it down to see these triangular supports either side. I had to sand it down right level with the tops of those triangular supports. And then on the newer model, I had to sand this section right here down level with that flatter section below it. And from here to the floor, and from the top of these triangles to the floor on the two different designs are the exact same length. And once you level them, when you put the trucks on, you've got it made. So I had to cut the two inserts for one of the newer undercarriage designs, looking at the picture to the right, got that done. Made it level with the newer model and top undercarriage. Yeah, everything sanded down, looking good. Okay. Any questions, gentlemen? Well, I hope I'm being that clear.
Roger?
I myself have a question, but I have a feeling that you're going to be answering it soon because it has to do with couplers.
No, I'm not. I haven't grappled with the issue of couplers yet. I am going to briefly touch it at the end. So I do appreciate your wisdom on holding off on that one. So I thank you very much. DC, what was your question?
I think that was me, Rod.
Yeah.
Tom Osterdock.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
A stupid question, just because I haven't played with Mantua cars since 1958 to 1960s.
And it's
Okay.
probably not a stupid question. Go ahead.
And I just got one of the cars that I'd received in the score group that I bought. Anyway, how do you get the couplers off or the trucks off? There's
How do
no
you put-
screw. There's no screw on the bottom. And are they just pop in there or what?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I haven't grappled with that problem yet. And I'm going to touch on that later. Because I have a different problem. I raised my locomotive's tender with larger wheel sets, which of course brought up the bottom of my tender. And so, but happily, I'll tell you later. I'll have a good match. I would choose either right now. I would just say I would choose gluing them, or drilling a screw hole and screwing them in. And good
Well,
luck.
that's
with
what I
that.
want. That's what I want to do. I just didn't know how to get them off though.
So
I
yeah,
know.
Get
I
them
like
off.
yeah, when you remove the body of those Manitous, some of them are just little clips.
No. They're attached.
Couple
They're
The
attached
truck.
to the trucks.
Talk about the trucks. You go
Tom,
inside
the
the
truck.
body,
There's no screws.
correct. They're
Yeah,
just-
they're attached to the Mantua trucks. I
Right.
am not using the Mantua trucks. If you are going to use the Mantua trucks, yeah, you've got an issue.
Well, wait, so I just want to be clear. Tom, are you saying how do you remove the horn coupler from the truck?
Yeah,
Not the coupler, but the truck.
the truck itself.
There's a
From the
screw.
body?
Some of them have a screw and some of them you just go inside and pinch. It's just a pressure fit pin.
Yes.
Just take a pair of needle nose pliers and you have to remove the body. Then you can access that because it looks like this and then it just spreads out. After it's pushed in, if you just squeeze those back
Yeah.
together, it drops right out.
Oh, okay. Okay, now I ask that question. How do you get the body off?
Oh, that's a
Actually,
fun one. I'll be real brief because I do want to move on here on this one. What I ended up doing was I put my thumb on the fore or aft of whichever side I was taking off first. Is there a side view here? A fore and aft view? Shoot, of course not. No problem. Close to the bottom beam here, I put my thumb back down here. I pressed in, put my other thumb on the beam and pulled it off. I hope somebody has a better idea.
Yeah, there's on the body, on the ends, there's two tabs on either end that slip between the beam and the frame. And you
Right.
have to, like Roger said, if you put your finger against the edge, the end of the car and push it in, there's a tab there also, but you also have to gently pull the beam away. And I can tell you, I've busted a couple of beams doing it. What I've done after that, I've just sanded off those tabs so the body comes off. But I will tell you, I've been able to take the trucks off without having to take the body off. Just hold the thing, grab the truck, and just twist it a little bit and pull it out, and it'll pop right out.
Yep, it worked. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay.
I'm just worried about breaking stuff. Sorry to interrupt, Rod.
No, Tom. Don't worry, man. You're good. Okay. So I grabbed my Dremel, armed it with what I thought was an appropriate sanding bit to grind down the plastic quickly because at the time I was kind of in a rush, but levelly for the installation of the trucks, went to work. This is a picture of the old undercarriage frame. And below, you can see what they look like on the undercarriage side after leveling the two shaft sections. The car sits level. And here it is sitting level. And it's much closer to the car body. Pleased to me to no end.
Cool.
Made sure the truck sat levelly fore and aft. There's a picture of it looking decently level. Look how much lower the car modified. Look how much lower the modified car sits in the original model's height. Approximately 1/8 inch, more or less. Sits lower down here too. Oh, more imperfections. Look how the roof slants. Guess what? We've already seen pictures. That happens.
That's great.
So I painted the body a roof brown from Badger, and the roof a combination of Viejo plain silver and weathered it with Viejo sky gray. I decaled them with microscale USMRR freight and passenger decals. I gave the full name of the decal set. You'll take note, the Badger roof brown has a sheen. It's kind of a satin. You'll have to get a Viejo flat varnish, which you're going to have to do for the roof anyway, so what the hell. And dull it out later. They came looking fine. Weather them to your heart's content, whatever makes you feel good about them. You can see the lines in them there, the different types of cars, stock cars down here, replace the siding car. All these are the regular house cars, house car, box car. Preparing the trucks for was relatively straightforward. DC had mentioned that on cars that had brakes, usually one truck had the brakes, the other did not. By the way, my research concurred with that. So I cut and filed down the brakes of one truck and left them on the other. On the attachments that connected the brakes to the beam, file those down too if you want, or leave them there like I did. Do what you need to do. And so I primed them and painted some of them with the Badger roof brown, then ran out of that color, and some of them with a Model Masters acrylic roof brown, which is a darker product. In fact, yeah, they're darker there, lighter here. That's kind of hard to see. I'm sorry about that. There's the removed brakes truck. Here is the brake still attached. I reassembled 5 cars and got them into a presentable state of being. I do apologize for the picture quality. I had to resize the picture, so that's the way that went. But hey, they've got that curved roof. You can see the angles. You'll take note, there was no uniform positioning of the decals. They're all over the place. On that picture that we spent a lot of time on, those 3 different cars had 3 different positionings of the lettering, also 3 different fonts that Microscale provides prototypically. Here's a closer view for you. See how those trucks look?
Mm-hmm.
God, I can't say enough about Eric Cox's product.
Nice.
Yeah, and look at that detail, guys. Even
Yeah,
my
sure.
bad pictures, you can see the detail.
Yep.
So moving right along, there's the top to the left, bottom to the right. Sure, paint your screws, disguise them. I left the Mantua monogram. Sand it off. Here's fore and aft, or aft and forward. Should we say shelf wheel?
That's
Wall
called the
wheel?
brakeman's platform, or the brake wheel platform.
There you go, brake wheel platform. This is on the Mantua car, another wheel comes here.
Does the side correlate with the truck that has the brakes?
Say again?
So you mentioned one of the trucks, you keep the brakes, the other you cut them off, as DC mentioned.
Right.
So does it matter which side, or does it correlate with, let's say you call that the roof brake on the left and the
The
shelf brake on
brakes
the right?
the brakes would be there. The picture on the left, that truck below there would have the brakes.
Okay. And there'd be like a chain, obviously if you went wild, there'd be a chain or something like that, or how would it mechanically connect, or do you know? How would that
bel-
brake wheel mechanically connect to the brake?
There
I
were
believe it-
chains.
Yeah.
Chains, yeah.
Well,
No.
on the Mantua car, look at the wall mounted wheel mechanism. This is a chain.
Yeah,
And it almost looks like it goes into a shaft, or it needs the chain for whatever reason. And this is like a shaft mechanism. This may not be prototypical. If
Can I-
I were
can-
to,
Can
Go
I
ahead.
get you angry
Please.
with me by saying
Please.
something? What I did was I left the car on the left-hand image. That's the way I would do it. But on the right-hand image, I would shade that all off and fill up that little hole. You know, they only
I'm in
had a brake
agreement.
wheel on one end.
yeah, I'm in agreement. My research said that as well. Unfortunately, my research was a little late after I painted them. I might go back and do that, but I gotta be honest with you.
They look good.
Forget about it.
it is.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
You know what I
So
mean?
So how did the brake on the right work, or was it just the modelers? I mean, I agree, it does look nice and it adds interest to the car. Was there a chain that would go, or?
Some cars did have brakes like that.
Right.
Actually, I think a bunch did, because there are many pictures with cars that have no evidence that this wheel pole is even existing. You don't see it.
Yeah.
I found the photographs.
So they work basically by shortening the length of the chain. As you rotate it, the chain basically wraps around the bottom of the rod, and it shortens. And as it shortens, it pulls a link. If you want to see a really good example of a model brake, Bernie has modeled the exact. If you get a picture of it, we'll go to his website and you'll see exactly how that operated. But it's a real simple function. You think it might be fancier, but it's just simply the chain wraps itself around the bottom of the rod, shortens up, and as it shortens up, it pulls a linkage that pulls the brakes onto the wheels.
Yep.
That's a good question about prototype, because what I've heard, and what I heard is that when the brake was on the side, it was called a tunnel brake. So the brakeman wouldn't have to worry about trying to duck in the tunnel, and he could just be there and then turn the wheel somehow. But I would imagine, that's a good question. I have no idea if that was in 1860s or later, and would they have needed to put brakes on that truck as well? Or was that linkage run underneath and linked to the one truck that had a brake? I don't know.
That wouldn't make sense. It's a long chain,
I agree. Yeah.
and would have been fouling
Mm.
underneath with all sorts of problems, I would think. I mean, practically speaking, but you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
John,
But yeah, when was the using both trucks you with brakes on? When did that become popular?
no idea. I don't know.
That's a question for White's book again.
And who says it wasn't done during this time period? Still, I mean,
Yeah.
I bet there was examples. I just can't see that not happening unless brakes were at a premium. No, make sure you spread them out. We don't have enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
So I
more
got
like, more
arrogant.
likely I'm thinking more likely brakemen were far and few to be found. It was a fairly hazardous task.
Hell yeah. And why would you want to pay 2 brakemen to brake both sides of the car?
Well, again, again, what I heard was that the one on the side versus the one sticking up was for when it was called a tunnel brake, and I think it was to prevent an accident if the brakeman had to be on the roof of the car. I think. Anyhow,
Yeah.
good. Okay.
It certainly would allow the car to go through lower tunnels.
Yeah.
Or so you wouldn't have to stand in there, you know? It's not so much lower. I don't think there was a tunnel tall enough where the guy could actually, well, I don't know.
That was a joke.
Oh. Keep going, Raj.
No problem. All right, I got arrogant. I decided to take get a prototypical side view picture and place my car against it and allow the judgment gods to go unbridled upon me. We'll take note though. Look how the area right over the railing looks a little raised there. Or perhaps it's just because the railing mechanism goes over that slight bottom, the wood that was underneath the tin. Maybe it's built over it, so it looks like the roof is a little higher. So that justifies my bump right there where I didn't get it glued correctly and solves my problem. Oh,
Right.
another hazard, gentlemen, is cutting around the corners. Yeah, most probably the corners are going to be lower.
Hmm.
It's going to happen. Count on it. Plan on it. Or if you know a different way of doing it, you are
Yeah.
duty bound to inform me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I can tell you from experience when you use styrene on the for the roofs, because I've done it like you have, Roger.
Yeah.
And they really don't like 4-foot drops. They round off themselves that way.
Say
But
that
you
again.
see that-
Say that again.
They don't like 4-foot drops.
What do you?
And
What doesn't
you
like
can't
4-foot drops?
repair them. You can repair them.
The styrene.
The styrene takes a beating in use.
Okay.
So I wouldn't worry about if there's a slight drop or not.
Oh hell no. No, it was once I glued them on, I looked at them and then looked at some prototypical pictures and said, I'm done. I'm fine with it. It's just not worth sweating.
Yeah.
Okay. Wanted to pick another side view. This is back. This picture is another focused in view of that picture of Alexandria. Once again, note my details are gone. The grooving has been re-scratched as best as I could do it. No, it's not perfect. Do you see some evidence over here? Yep.
I think
there's
you did a
part of
great
that.
job.
Yeah, it's part of that damn handrail, but who cares? It still looks fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very pleased with it.
Good.
Personally. Somebody else needs to do, if they want to make it more detailed, by God, they need to. Go do it. All right, I got my River Rossi project locomotive. This is the one where the wheels are 33-inch, 33-inch precision scale spoked wheels for eventual Mason look 440. And I did this as levelly as I could with the refabricated Mantua car, and they're almost level with each other, almost. This is a little lower than that. I'm gonna have to figure out the couplers later. Right now, the intended plan is KD couplers. And yeah, I'm gonna dabble with Lincoln pin just to see how it goes. Having gone up and enjoyed the incredible privilege of visiting Tom's layout and working with his system of Lincoln pin, which is done as well as it can be. I'm not sure I want to go that direction. Yeah.
Roger,
Yeah,
it's interesting how it's the same car, but the one on the left looks longer than the one on the right, and just looks like a much better scale for that locomotive. It doesn't look as toy-like.
okay, hang on. The right-hand picture,
I like the one on the left hand. The
right,
left-hand picture, which is more prototypical, the car looks better with that engine than the right-hand one, where the car is just too high. Never looked quite right to me.
and yeah, and because I was able to lower it 1/8 inch due to the process I showed you guys, you're right, DC. Not only does it look better, but clearly it's more prototypical. Look at the cars connected here. Note, this is a new car. This is the old car. Look how level they are. So happily the process works. And I wanted to give that comparison picture so you could see what the manufactured car looks like versus the modified car.
Your end beams match too, which is important if you're going to couple so that they're pretty much at the same level.
They match better, to be honest.
Yeah.
They match better. And I think it will allow for, it's really bad with the manufactured one versus the modified one. Yes, it's really bad, but it's doable the other way. Even if, like, let's say a KD coupler fits on the car side slightly higher than on the tender locomotive side, they'll couple. And my instructions, which I will have to correct later when I finally post this on our website, guys.
Cool. Wow.
It looks to me that the factory version uses Talgo trucks, and that's the maybe the height is to clear the truck mounted couplers.
Well, you're probably right. Look how close that upper bar is to the step rail, if you want to call it. Yeah.
I just get KD coupler boxes, mount them to the bottoms of your cars. If you need to shim them so they're lower, just get some shims and put in there. To adjust the height of your KD couplers, just use the KD coupler boxes.
Hey, DC, is that Harold Minkowitz's site still up where he showed how to modify Mantua cars?
It was, I haven't been there for a while.
Yeah.
I've got a connection on my desktop, but I don't know if that connects with the old one. because I had kind of a blog post and long time ago, haven't used it in like, decade and a half, and it still shows up. So chances are Howard's still out there, or Harold's is still out there.
Did he modify it to a house car?
I'm sorry?
Did he modify the Mantua car to a house car?
Yes,
like
yes,
this?
he did.
Yes.
Yes, he did. He's done that.
Okay, so you guys knew about that and didn't tell me before the presentation.
Oops.
This will be the last presentation you gentlemen will ever get from me.
Roger, you
That's
did a
okay.
great
It's
job.
better. It's better to take a fresh look and copy somebody else.
Absolutely. It gives modelers a couple of options because I think, there are things that you did that are a little less complex than what Harold did. And now we have another option for doing that. I don't think he changed the roof set like you did. He just lowered or shortened the car.
He lowered the car.
Lowered it, right. Not shortened, right, lowered it. Yeah.
Yeah, I did one car according to his, and that was the only car I'm gonna do according to his.
Because the
Because it's still a wide squat car.
Yeah.
My preference is Bill Wade's kits, but that's me.
Right.
Oh yeah, no. Stick
I
with
think
the kit you want.
I think the what Roger's done, they look great with that engine. I'm really impressed, Roger.
Well, DC, that was the reason. In my mind, the BTS car is too small. And my favored model is the River Rossi model. So I wanted something that was a better match. You said it was a better match. I put them together and figured it out for myself, looking at them, that it was a better match, and made my choice.
Right. Good.
And I'm very pleased.
Yeah, well done, man. That's quite a bit of work. And
Could I ask you a question, Roger?
Go ahead, DC.
Okay, when you put them up next to each other,
Mhm.
does the roof of the engine cab, is it the same height as the roof of the modified boxcar?
Negative.
It looks
Pretty
like
sure.
it's about a dead match.
It's so damn close that it's really hard to tell. Because as you know, the River Rossi locomotive has its manufactured peak roof. The peak can be deceptive. That line fools your eye to looking like it's lower than it is. And then when you actually here, I'll take just a quick look at it again. Peak roof's a little bit higher. Yeah. And but that's almost impossible to tell. Where the roof's higher, do you know?
different cars were, as you showed in some of your prototype photos, some cars were actually just taller and longer and wider than others.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of photographic evidence of that.
Yeah. Cool.
I've only found the Mantua door once. And that was interestingly enough, sitting at Manassas Junction on exactly one car. I haven't found a whole lot of evidence for that. And I'm wondering if it was because it was an older door or a brand new style or just a small company that made them that way. Who knows?
Yeah. Good. Okay. You could stop your screen share unless anybody.
Yeah,
has
let me
any
do
questions.
that. Oh, we lost somebody. Thank you, John.
Well done. Well done, man. Thank you. That was great. That was great.
I hope it makes it easier for everybody else if they attempt that project. As usual, my offer stands that if you are going to approach that project,
You'll do it for us?
Tom, check
Is that
into
your-
the mental health hospital, but know that email me, and I will do what I can.
Right.
To help
It's
you.
only $150 a car, Tom.
Whoa. Okay. Okay.
That's actually, it's kind of funny. I thought about that with all the experimentation that I was doing and the added materials and all that number. Because I originated the project, it's probably a pretty good estimate. But now that I've got the process down and I'm doing a bunch more, it's going to be very cost effective.
Fred, okay. I got your message. It's okay. Okay. I won't be asking you to build one. Cool. Gentlemen, wow, this is great. I'm glad you guys were able to stay on as long as you did. And Roger, again, well done. Thank you so much for the time and effort in not only the construction, but putting the presentation together for us.
Thank you.
Yep. And I will keep you gentlemen posted as to what's next on the calendar and what's going to be happening with the fall meet. DC and I'll put our heads together and figure out how we go to Memphis. I mean, maybe Baltimore. Right, right. Okay, guys, all the best. Have a great weekend.
Great job, Roger.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Yeah,
Tom.
thank
Thanks,
you again,
Roger.
Roger.
Thank you, gentlemen.